This is Factual America. I'm your host, Matthew Sherwood. Each week, I watch a hit documentary and then talk with the filmmakers and their subjects.
I'm not a crazy person. I'm hyper aware of what they're capable of. It's not a video game. There's no pause.
Shark Whisperer, currently streaming on Netflix, is about marine conservationist and social media lightning rod Ocean Ramsey. Her viral videos of swimming with sharks have sparked global fascination and fierce debate. Is she a fearless advocate for misunderstood predators, or does her online persona blur the line between saving the planet and seeking the spotlight? You be the judge. Co-directors J.P. Stiles and Macks join us to discuss this polarizing figure and the challenges of making a film about the ultimate apex predator. Stay tuned. J.P. Stiles and Macks, welcome to Factual America. How are things with you, J.P.?
Thank you very much. They're great. Thank you for having us. We're very excited. The Shark Whisperer came out yesterday, so It's been great to see everyone's response.
Yeah. And Harrison, how are you doing?
Feeling good. It's awesome to have this thing out in the world, and it's only been a day, but seems like it's getting some traction, so it's exciting. Excited to be here too.
Well, we're excited to have you on. And just to remind everyone that we're talking about, as you've seen in the trailer or heard from our guests, we're talking about Shark Whisperer, currently streaming on Netflix. Congratulations again. Great to have you on. And JP, maybe you can get us started. Tell people what Shark Whisperer is all about. Maybe give us a quick synopsis.
Well, I'd love them to watch the movie, but it's essentially a story of Ocean Ramsey and her husband, Juan Oliphant, and their relationship with these animals, being sharks in Oahu. And they have 15 years of footage that they handed over to us, this archival footage that Juan had been shooting. And so it's about them trying to demystify these creatures, which many of us grew up seeing them as monsters, and their journey to do that.
Okay. Well, and just to say, if people should go watch if they're worried about spoiler. I don't think this one's going to have any spoiler alerts, but just in case, it's streaming now. Go watch it. It's definitely, and then you can come back and hear more about Ocean Ramsey and JP and Harrison's efforts and what in terms of how they made this movie and bring Ocean and Juan's story to life. Harrison, so for some of us who are maybe of a certain age or been living under a rock or something, maybe weren't all that aware of who Ocean Ramsey is, but so she actually swims with sharks. Is that right?
She actually swims with sharks. It is pretty amazing.
Did you witness it firsthand?
No, I was going to say it's cool because for us, JP, I don't know about you, if you knew of Ocean before her video, this viral video in 2019, but I certainly didn't. And sort of the way that this all started, this documentary, is Ocean swam with the biggest great white shark ever recorded back in 2019, and this video went viral. JP and I saw it and were stunned, obviously, as anybody would be. And I think for both of us, as documentarians, the sort of the first questions we asked ourselves were, how is this possible?
Right.
How could any human being get anywhere near a great white like this, swim like this, do any of this? And two, who is this human being?
Right.
And what in her life has led her to this moment? And so we started to reach out. JP eventually was able to get in contact with them, and they basically said to us, a lot of people from Hollywood or people in the industry have reached out, but nobody will come out. Nobody's come out and swam with the sharks. And so we booked our flights the next day to Hawaii, and went out and got to hang out with them and dove right in and had a pretty incredible experience. It's a special thing.
Aloha, I'm Ocean Ramsey. I'm a shark and marine conservationist. I want to prove to the world that they're not monsters. I'm good to go anytime. I want to push the limits. And if it doesn't go well, don't blame the shark.
Wow. And it's okay, just to add that these aren't just, I mean, it's enough to be swimming with great white sharks, right? But these are like at least one or two of the biggest known sharks out there, right? Like Deep Blue or Howley Girl, whatever the ones, these legendary animals.
We didn't swim with great whites. That's
okay. Did you swim with the tiger sharks?
But we swam with tiger sharks, Galapagos, and sandbars. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And what's that like?
I mean, I highly, I recommend everyone experience it in a safe setting. But it was an amazing experience. I mean, there's a kind of primal fear that is within us, and in ways we were, thought to think in that manner. Yeah. But then when you arm yourself with this knowledge and understanding that they're not actually these creatures that we thought they were, and when you have someone you can go with to introduce you to them in a safe setting, it was a really beautiful experience. I mean, there's a magnetism to these animals. They've been around for millions of years, and it certainly puts you in a state of hyper awareness, but also presence. I was kind of talking with Ocean and Juan, and they would never say that it's a kind of adrenaline thing, but the way that I was looking at it is, if you're riding a motorcycle, there's a primal risk involved. However, it's a beautiful experience as well. So you just calculate that. And by the way, riding a motorcycle, way more dangerous than swimming with these animals statistically. But it was beautiful.
So, I mean, I'm curious. So you've gone way beyond the Call of Duty as documentarians, I would argue, or at least for some of us would see it that way. But Harrison. So you said, JP, you're saying she creates a safe environment. What does she have, like a sixth sense? I mean, what is it about her? I know you showed in the film, so so people should watch the film because it's quite poignant, her ability to interact with these animals. But what did you being there firsthand? I mean, is there something different about her that works with these sharks, or is she just not scared of them like the rest of us would be?
It's a complex and layered answer to that, and I don't know if I'll do it justice. I genuinely think the sort of experiencing the film and her and Juan's stories can answer it better. But it's multifaceted. A lot of it comes from, Ocean and Juan have been doing this for, more than half their lives. I mean, they've been doing this for a long time, and they've been swimming with these sharks. They've made this their life's journey, and they do it on almost a daily basis. And so over time, it's not that they're not affecting the environment. The environment is the ocean. It's not a safe environment per se, or them doing anything to make it safer. It's more sort of, I guess, arming you with the understanding and the confidence that these creatures are not out to get you.
Yeah.
And, if you can sort of embody your own inner predator in a respectful way, then you can garner the respect of sharks. It's not to say that anybody can do that at any point. Certainly, I wouldn't be diving into the water with great whites without, way more experience, and I don't think Ocean and Juan would recommend that to anyone either. But I think for them, it's a combination of they have an enormous love and compassion for these animals that they sort of, I guess, replaces the fear that a lot of us do. And so it allows them to have that confidence with ease that these animals respond to. And I think that they genuinely view them, not necessarily as other sharks, but as, in some ways, an equal predator. And I think that that's why they are able to do that.
Yet, I mean, and you show it in the film as well, and I'm not trying to contradict anything you've just said, but we do, I mean, you have the one scene, one segment where you talk to the person who's was a surfer, right? Who's been attacked by a shark. So it is, I guess, is is it also just kind of a matter of, a respect, or in that case, what it, what explains why? Maybe this is beyond our pay grades, but what explains why a shark attacks someone who just happens to be on a surfboard, and that obviously does create some of this sharks are monsters kind of mania.
Right.
Absolutely. No, I mean, look, there's different situations, right?
Yeah.
There's being in the water
Yeah.
with sharks, down on their level, wearing fins, goggles, having all your senses about you, being able to be aware and have visibility. And then there's being up swimming on the surface on a surfboard where there aren't that many shark attacks, but when they do happen, the large majority of the time, it's sort of mistaken identity.
Right.
They're coming to see, either they're just absolutely starving and they're taking risks and they make a mistake, or they might mistake somebody for a sea turtle or a seal.
Right.
So it's kind of different situations there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great question for Ocean and Juan directly, but they would say this themselves, that the best situation to be if you're with a shark is having goggles and a snorkel mask on, and being able to look at them directly in the eyes. So surfing is a different scenario where you kind of have to know what you're getting into. But to Harrison's point, and as Ocean explains in the movie, they are so few and far between. It's just that when they do happen, it is a moment that the media grabs onto, and it is scary for the person involved, for sure.
Yeah. And as you said, and you documented as well, my own son has a Jaws t-shirt, the movie, and it's like, that's what we've all grown up with. That's over 50 years ago, right? That film, I think. So it's part of the, certainly in our cultural memory. But JP, so she's also become, and this is how you come across her because of the video going viral. She and Juan have become media sensations. That's fair enough to say? She's got over 2 million followers on Instagram and 300 followers, I think, plus on YouTube, and I'm sure other social media platforms. So they've, you can see where I'm going to go with this, because this is kind of the leading question, because I think it gets to this other issue that I wasn't out aware of, but we can discuss as well, which is this sort of, I guess, what is a controversy, or her being a polarizing figure. But they have become, let's do this. She's using this fame to advocate for sharks. Is that, I guess, the best way to put it, right?
She's like this beautiful wild animal. I've just filmed every interaction that I possibly can.
Juan is the only person I think that understands me. With those images, it's an opportunity to reach the entire public.
Well, she's been advocating for sharks and then gained fame, I would say, right? And she's been doing it since day one. Again, she would tell you herself, but she's realized this tool. And really, when Juan came into the picture and was with her all the time and taking photos of this, that's when they realized that they were gaining traction, and people were wanting to hear them out, right? And hear their story, which is really them sharing the plight of these animals. So yeah, it's certainly, you'll check out, there's people, and we include them in the film, who have different views on what she does. And that was important for us to include both sides, but she has certainly realized the power of media and imagery and getting her message across in that way, especially when Juan came in the picture to take these beautiful photos of these animals with Ocean, interacting with them. It just really shifts your perspective.
I was just going to add to that. I think, what's cool and what we're proud of in this movie is, it's really underneath it is about sort of what happens to somebody when they go out to challenge someone's fears.
Right.
And I think as human beings, whether it's fear of shark or something else, we really hold on to our fears. And it's something ingrained in us culturally, growing up as kids. And when somebody comes and sort of cuts into that, it's alarming, and your alarm bells go off. And I think that people then have very strong reactions, and that's okay.
Yeah.
People can make their own decision of what they think, but I think what is sort of undeniable is that they are sort of bringing a new perspective to these creatures. Like you can't look at
Right.
Ocean and the way that she's able to swim next to these animals and not take a second glance and think, how is this going on? Why does this make me feel uncomfortable? Why does this, it just start to ask a lot of whys. And I think that is really what they're trying to do is as Ocean says, people look first and listen second. And so people need to be paying attention to have a conversation about it.
Yeah. And they're flipping the imagery that has been being shared, or that they're flipping the imagery about sharks that's being shared. Meaning, in the past, popular pictures might have been with these, large macho guys who have just hooked a shark, right? And sharing that. But now you have this image of Ocean bringing this, feminine energy to these animals that, as Harrison said, really shifts the picture in our heads.
And just one, maybe not last thing, but one more thing on that is, so what is the main message they're trying to get across, besides the fact that we've got this, maybe a misunderstanding of what sharks are like? I mean, I'm aware, I have to, hands up, 30 years ago, I went on a fishing trip, and we got on the boat, and the guy's like, okay, I didn't know this, but he's like, we're going to go catch sharks, right? So I've actually, fished for sharks. I'm not necessarily, well, it was the time, I guess. We had I think very much a cavalier attitude towards them. I guess an idea that they couldn't be endangered, or even if they could, it's kind of like, I have my own personal pathological fears about snakes, so there's this part of me that's like, I couldn't care less if snakes get rid of snakes. But the reality is, we know what that does to our ecosystems, and it's built on a fear, right? A primeval fear of sorts. But so what would, I think, if they could be here, they're here in the film, obviously, what would be like their main message or two they would want to get out about sharks?
I think from a really fundamental level, obviously they want to save sharks from sort of the extinction they're going towards, but that's sort of the I guess the almost the easier answer. I think it's to encourage people to want to understand and show compassion for these animals, because, like you said, I think there are certain animals that are just sort of universally feared or disliked, whether it's spiders or snakes, but sharks is kind of the biggest one. Shark is almost a dirty word in the English language. And I think that to help protect sharks, for the many reasons, the fact that they are, an apex predator of the ocean, they are a keystone species, and all of those things, you could go on and on and on. In order to even start to care about them, we need to start to view them in the way that we view, dolphins and whales. We need to bring some sympathy towards them. And I think what's interesting for us, like, this was a challenge in terms of making the film. It's easy to look at a dolphin or a whale and feel emotional. They pup their young.
Right.
They are making sounds. They are communicating. They're social. And I think for sharks, sharks are silent. Their eyes aren't really moving. They're not, you're not seeing them with their family or anything like that. And so it's, besides the fact that they're, could rip almost anything apart in a second if they wanted to, and I understand why that's scary to people. They're also hard to, like, relate to.
Right.
And I think that, a lot of people would probably criticize Ocean and Juan for overly humanizing these animals, but I think they're just trying to help people look at them differently and know that, sure, we may never be able to understand them on the level that we might be able to understand a horse or a dog, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't show them love and compassion.
Okay.
Exactly. Baseline, stop killing sharks, right? That's their message.
Right.
But it also leads to, a lot of the subjects in our film also talk about this. Brian Keelana talks about this. Man destroys what it fears, and it fears what it doesn't understand. So they're trying to arm people with the knowledge of understanding that these are not monsters to be feared. And to your point, Matthew, they're in the ocean. It's kind of the not in my backyard mentality.
Right.
But Ocean and Juan want people to not have a fear for these sharks, to care for these sharks, to therefore also care for the ocean at large, right?
Okay.
Which even goes beyond these animals, but it starts with the sharks. Okay. And they're so passionate about them too, because they have made these relationships with them. So all that together.
And I think like just one more quick thing that I think is cool is that, there's so many people all around the world who would never go in the ocean because of this irrational fear of sharks. And so I think it's, look, Ocean and Juan are going out and swimming with sharks. They are taking people out to swim with sharks. So I'm not saying they're not encouraging that in some ways specifically in a safe, or a specific way, but they're really more so encouraging people to look at the ocean differently. Can we get over that fear where people, because if you're so scared of the ocean because of sharks that you won't even go in, how can you care about the ocean or what's happening to it? So I think it's like, the sharks in a weird way kind of represent, much more. They're sort of represent the entire ocean, which is pretty awesome.
I think that's a good point to give our listeners and viewers a quick break. So we'll be right back with JP Stiles and Harrison Macks, the co-directors of Shark Whisperer, currently streaming on Netflix. And since you've made it this far, why not subscribe to our channel? And please ring the bell while you're at it to make sure you never miss one of our episodes. We'll be right back. Factual America is brought to you by Alamo Pictures, a London-based production company specializing in feature documentaries, factual television, and shorts about the U.S. Benefiting from an outsider's keen eye and years of stateside experience, Alamo's filmmakers explore topical, uniquely American stories from a sympathetic European perspective. The result is engaging cinema and television that defies stereotypes and helps audiences truly understand what makes America tick. Check out Alamo's website at alamopictures.co.uk to be the first to hear about new productions, festivals showing Alamo's films, and to connect with the team. Now back to Factual America. Welcome back to Factual America. I'm here with JP Stiles and Harrison Macks, the co-directors of Shark Whisperer, currently streaming on Netflix. We were just talking about Ocean and Juan and what they're trying to, the message they're trying to get across, and how they're, you're eloquently putting, relaying sort of what all their efforts are about. Mm-hmm. But I want to get back to this point because of, maybe you can explain it to me, because I'm having a hard time explaining it. What is the controversy? Because, you do present it. And I'm saying it's, but you've got like marine biologists and others who are not too keen on them, on their efforts, and I don't quite get it. At the same time, maybe we can even delve into why she is so polarizing, her specifically. Do you have either one of you have a view on that?
Well, one of the things is within conservation, we've realized there's a bit of conservation cannibalism where everyone's trying to do a good thing, but everyone has their own way of doing it. So if it's not your way, people get frustrated. The deeper we dove into that, there's also funding conversations that get involved. So when you bring finances into these issues, it brings a lot of discussion, right?
Right.
And so their strategy, as we've been discussing, is very much we are going to use a platform and we are going to coexist with these animals. We don't want to be or consider ourselves separate from them. We want to show people that we can dive in safely. And so a lot of people disagree with that. A lot of people don't think that, they think that you should get out of the water. You should fully not try and coexist with these animals and just get out of their space and let them be and get out of the ocean. Or study them in your setting. They want to take them out of the ocean, bring them into labs, study them in a controlled setting. Where Ocean and Juan are very vocal. They want to study the animals in their natural habitat. That's where you're going to see the most real life actions happening. Ocean had a great breath hold, but she improved her breath hold so she could stay underwater for close to 6 minutes with these animals and really observe them.
And Is it partly because she is? I mean, they're non-traditional, right, in this world, correct? So, a vivacious couple. She's an attractive woman. She's got lots of followers on as we talked about, Instagram, and that's not how conservation's been done in the past. I guess is
I mean,
there an
simply put,
element of that?
people don't
yeah.
like change.
Right.
Change can be scary.
It's more for show than it is for science.
More for the gram, more for the shot.
People look first and listen second. I'll use my appearance. I'll put myself out there for a cause. As a female, I'll get a different level of attention and criticism.
You know, there's, as JP was saying, there's sort of the basic controversy of people saying this is setting a bad example and you shouldn't be going anywhere near these animals and you shouldn't be touching these animals or even being in a situation where you would have to divert them or anything like that. And then there's also just the controversy of there are certain critics that see Ocean as just sort of an influencer,
Right.
I guess, if you will, versus somebody who is actually a conservationist,
Right.
and doing science and things like that. And I think, you know, as you'll see in the film, like there's a lot of, I think we're at a place where a lot of things are intersecting. You know, you don't need to be just one thing. There are multiple different ways to do something, and it doesn't. At the same time, there is a very real and significant place for hard science in a more traditional sense, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't more, you know, going out and observing, spending time, you know, an insane amount of time to study an animal's behavior doesn't also count as science. So I mean, that's, you know, it's really up for people to decide and see what they think. But I think that's really the main controversy is, you know, is this for fame or is this really for conservation? And we certainly, having spent a lot of time with Ocean and Juan now, can say that, you know, they have dedicated their entire lives to this cause. That's for sure.
Yeah, the more I talk about this and ask you questions about it, the more I think it's a bit of inside baseball in a way. You know, there's this conservation circles that may have these disagreements, but are they? I mean, you know, people can do the searches. They will. I did one right. I don't normally do these sort of things before doing an interview, but I did a quick one, and you know, there are obviously videos on YouTube saying, "Oh, what you know, both ways, right?"
Right.
So, you know, people will come to their own conclusion, but it isn't. It is very interesting that way. I mean, it is kind of I don't normally think of conservationists and ecologists as sort of staid and old school or whatever, but there is this kind of almost generational difference here, and like you say, people are adverse to change or doing things differently.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, you've already talked about how you got, you know, how this all kicked off. You were right at the beginning. You came across the video and you were like, God, we got to make a doc about these people. And so you actually literally dove in and got down with it. I mean, James Reed's not here, but he's, you know, he's not able to join us today, I don't think. But, you know, he did the Oscar-winning My Octopus Teacher. How did he get involved?
It was so great working with James. Yeah, do you want to? I was just going to say, basically, this project came together. We partnered with Boardwalk, the production company,
Right.
And we took it out to. As we were pitching it, you know, we came to Netflix, and once we moved forward with Netflix, Sarah Edelson, who was the executive over there, she suggested bringing James on, which we were super grateful for because his experience in the natural history world is fantastic. And so he originally came on as an EP,
Right.
and then Harrison and I were in the field shooting, and then as we got into post, we all decided to have James kind of get his hands dirtier with us, and so he dove in, and we created this collaboration. And to your point, it's been great because he does have such a rich history in the natural history world and also in the underwater world. So it created a great trifecta.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a really cool collaboration, getting into post and sort of getting to have these conversations with James because, we've all made, these archival based documentaries, but when you dive in with, you know, into this underwater world where there's no audio, there's no sound,
Mm,
it's 15 years of deep blue uh, footage.
right.
It takes you know, a few brains to really just look through it all. I mean, we literally watched every frame of 15 years of footage. But then as we were sort of talking about it, it just became a great partnership. And yeah, with James's experience with these, obviously, Academy Award winning underwater projects, um, it was awesome,
Yeah.
and it was a great learning experience for us as well. And yeah, James was great.
Whatever reason you feel the need to have your hand on this animal, you better understand what you're getting yourself into.
But catching people's attention, people actually care about a shark.
We need to protect these animals.
All of them are headed towards the brink of extinction, and people want to comment on my approach to conservation. The change makers are the ones that try something a little different. We knew we had to do something more extreme to cut through the bullshit.
The connections and parallels are uncanny, and I know it's I know he's done a lot of films, but I'm thinking specifically My Octopus Teacher. It's because get back to some of the points you're making earlier. I mean, there you've got the main character protagonist, Chris. Well, let's say the octopus is the main protagonist, but you've got Chris Foster who's telling the story. He's a free diver. A lot of similarities, but what struck me was this: you were saying about, do you have to, what constitutes being a scientist or an ecologist or a conservationist? But he's observing things that no one's ever seen with an octopus before. And Ocean's observing things that no one has ever seen with sharks, right? So she's done 15 years or more of daily observation of sharks. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. What she's able to, even the best researcher wouldn't be able to do something like that. So, and then, so all the footage you were saying, all the footage, underwater footage, is that all Juan's that you've got in?
It's this. Don't quote me on this exact percentage, but I would guess that by the end of it, the edit, in terms of the underwater stuff, it was probably 65% Juan and Ocean's footage over the last 2 decades,
Yeah.
and the rest was what we've shot,
Okay.
particularly by Keone Bothorpe, who was is featured in the film and was also our amazing underwater cinematographer.
Okay. And was that one of the biggest challenges in making the film? Or what would you say the biggest challenge was?
Sharks
JP?
do not show up on time. We were shooting with wildlife, and we wanted to capture Ocean and Juan with these animals, right? Because as Harrison was explaining, a lot of the footage is Juan's, but when you're seeing Juan, we obviously needed to get Keone to capture Juan capturing Ocean.
Right.
And we wanted to capture their interactions in modern day. But yeah, biggest challenge was this is wildlife and this is weather and these are wild animals and they don't always show up even when you plan a big shoot day.
Right.
So we had to have a very nimble team, and we had to be okay with shifting and, maybe doing an interview on land and stuff like that. But we made it work.
No, I was just, I mean, sharks, boats, the ocean. It's interesting because, documentary is, what was cool about this is now documentary has become, there's so many documentaries out, and it's so, to go out and make a documentary over the course of a year is now sort of a normal thing. But it used to be that you would have to go and spend years with somebody,
Right.
and sort of let life unfold and capture that when it happened. And I think that, there are certain times, we've done sports documentaries where it's like, okay, during these playoffs, this is the story. We're going to get the story here and then the championship, and that's it. But this is real life and out in the ocean with wild animals. And so it just obviously doesn't work like that. And you just hope that they show up and you get great stuff. Thankfully we did. But it takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of hours. And thankfully we got to do those hours in Hawaii, so that made it really nice. But yeah, no, it was cool. It was a very cool experience for us as well. It's why we do this. We get to have experiences like that.
Yeah. The deepest fear that everybody has of sharks, it's always the image of a great white.
And then up from the depths comes this massive 20+ foot great white shark. Oh my God.
Well, I think that's actually, we're coming up on our kind of the end of our time together. But before saying goodbye and thanking you again for coming on, what's next for you two? Harrison, what's next? What's the next project?
We've got a few things cooking, both in sort of documentary and the scripted space.
Right.
But we can't really talk about them.
You know, you guys never can. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's wish we could, but yeah, some cool stuff coming up. Hopefully everybody will see, over the next year or so.
Is that same for you, JP?
Yeah. Harrison and I, we like to do a lot of work together. Primarily we have, and so we're kind of in the same boat. But yeah, good things coming.
But did I see correctly? Have you guys done music videos as well?
We have. We do music videos, branded content and things like that. It's been mostly doc the last few years, but we're getting back into some cool branded stuff as well, right, recently.
So would you do another nature doc?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially if you get to spend the time in Hawaii.
Honestly, anywhere. I think, getting to be out in the elements and see the world. I mean, it's why you do this.
Okay.
I mean, I hope a byproduct of this too, when people watch this, is getting out in nature themselves. Having an inkling to want to connect to nature in a different way. And it doesn't need to be some grand trip. It could be going out in your front yard, you know? And that was such a beautiful thing for us, is being so integrated with nature during the making of this. So I hope people take that with them as well.
I mean, what's the feedback like so far? Have you had much?
I mean,
positive.
It's only been a day. So
yeah, I know.
I think we're waiting.
Everyone's looking to see if you're on the top 10 list or not. But yeah, what if?
Yes. A single line review I think I saw on I forget where I saw it. It might have popped up on Twitter, but it just said BRB, got to go commit my entire life to saving the sharks, and that's been my favorite line so far. I was like, cool. We if we inspire one person, that's great.
All right. Well, you've inspired me. So thanks again. I really appreciate you guys coming on. It's been wonderful to have you. I think it's everyone should check out the film. It's on Netflix. Everyone's got Netflix. You know where to find it. So big thanks again to JP Stiles and Harrison Macks, the co-directors of Shark Whisperer, currently streaming on Netflix. Check it out. And please like the episode and subscribe to the channel. And on YouTube, remember to ring the bell to be notified of future episodes. Thanks again, and look forward to having you guys back on sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Thanks for listening to Factual America. Please subscribe and like us and share us with friends and family. Find us on YouTube, social media, and factualamerica.com. This is Matthew Sherwood, signing off.